But I am Tina, the miracle baby. Badass woman. Tired of being pushed to the side, ready to fight for myself and others. I use my anger and frustration to fuel my fire, and before I know it, I'm ablaze. I'm the pyromaniac of periods!
The TMI Project Story Hour presents the Period Power Stories podcast, where we tackle taboos about periods one story at a time. All storytellers are members of the Kingston High School Period Power Club, a group dedicated to destigmatizing menstruation, raising awareness of period poverty, and inspiring action to ensure free menstrual products for all students. In 2023, club members took a 10-session TMI Project True Storytelling workshop and wrote about their own experiences with periods. Now, we're sharing these stories to continue the conversation.
The views shared in this podcast are solely those of the subject and don't reflect the beliefs or opinions of TMI Project. This podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment.
Hi, I'm your host today, Makayla, and we're here with my co-host Tina and Senator Michelle Hinchey.
Also known as Tina the Tampon Lady, but I'm super happy to be here with you ladies today and Senator Michelle Hinchey. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here too. It's such a great conversation.
To kick things off, I have one question for you, and we'll all go around, but can you tell us one thing that we don't know about you by looking at you?
Sure. Probably as a state senator and someone who's out in the public, you think you have to be really confident and secure in who you are, right? To go out and kind of put yourself out there. But growing up and even into my 20s and into my young adult time, I was really not confident at all and very self-aware, kind of concerned about all of the things, in our life, but I was not that confident. And one of my early jobs out of college was actually working for a grassroots organization called Fund for the Public Interest,
Really?
where I was working to ban fracking in our state before the moratorium was put in place.
Wow.
And the way that we did that from a grassroots perspective was I stood out on the streets in New York City and throughout the tri-state area and waved people down and both fundraised and asked people for their interest in protecting their drinking water and tried to raise money and raise the issue. And that was a big step forward for me in kind of understanding early rejection because when you are talking to people on the street, they're looking at you and you're waving them down and you're asking them a question, you're asking them to listen to you. And especially in busy streets, not everybody always wants to be the kindest or give you their time in that way and in the way that you're asking. And so it was a great learning experience for me and a really important issue at the time. It was kind of my first foray into issue advocacy.
Makayla, what about you?
Something you can't tell about me is that I am looking forward to being a psychologist in the future.
Love that.
And one thing you can tell by looking at me is probably that I am super confident off camera, great at public speaking and hunting down people on the streets and asking for money. But put a camera in front of me, I freeze up. Or maybe you could totally tell that about me. And I am a social worker at the high school, and I'm so excited to see Makayla coming into her profession.
Yeah.
And it's been an honor to work with you for the last 4 years.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah, so I think that kind of brings us to the first question, which you might have started to answer, in what brought you into really going into politics and becoming a senator.
Yeah, so I grew up here. I grew up in Socrates. I went to Socrates High School, and I love my community. Always have, always will. And but you kind of, when you're living in it, you see all the challenges that we face every day, right? And you can see over time how some of those challenges are not met or they're not addressed. And I also was really fortunate that both of my parents are really civically minded and engaged. But my dad especially was in public service and was in elected office. And so that was, a privilege that I had to be able to see what that looked like. And ever since I was like 7, people asked when I was going to run for office. So it was always in the back of my mind as an option, as a possibility. But I saw all the negative sides too. Time is not your own. You're never going to make everybody happy. It can take a really long time to get important stuff done. And so I kind of ran from it for a while because I wanted to see what else was out there in the world. And if there were other things that I cared about as much as my home, if there are other things that I cared about that I could kind of pave my own way. And I spent 10 years working in the private sector for technology companies and media companies and learned a ton. Right before that was with Fund for the Public Interest. And then I moved my job indoors. And it was I learned a ton. It was really, really interesting. But at the end of every day, truly, I felt like there was a lot more to do and to give back and to be involved in our local area. And I saw that the person who was representing my community at the state level, at the state Senate level, was not advocating for the future and for the future that I thought we've all needed and deserved, and decided, might as well try.
Yeah.
And worst case scenario is a new experience.
That's right.
I meet
Yeah.
new people. I hopefully gain new skills.
Mhm.
And let's see if we can actually make some change. And I did it. And that's why more young people need to jump in and run for office.
That's
Because
right.
we need new ideas. We need new energy. We need to kind of break the mold that has been there for so long, and kind of the status quo that's been there for so long. And jumped in and decided to do it.
Thank you for that. As you know, Article 2, Title 6 of Section 267 makes menstrual products free for nearly all students across 688 schools in New York State. As Governor Kathy Hochul said at the time, with access to menstrual products in school, we're continuing to ensure equality for women and girls in New York. As the school year begins, we're reminding school districts to make sure that these items are provided to students. Can you describe from your point of view the importance of this law? Why are free menstrual products an equity issue for menstruators?
So a couple of reasons, right? I mean, first of all, period products are really expensive. And that in and of itself is deeply problematic. But they're really expensive. And so for a family, kind of determining how they can spend their limited dollars, right? That this is a healthcare issue. Making sure that people who menstruate actually have the healthcare equipment that they need to live their true authentic selves and show up in every space where they should at any time of day, any day of the week, is really important.
Yeah.
And especially in a school setting where every student is figuring out who they are and what is kind of happening both socially and emotionally, and also kind of in your own body. Yeah, you can show up to your spaces. It shouldn't be a question, you need to be embarrassed about something, right?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a question if you are going to have access to period products, if you can even go to school or not.
Yeah.
Right. And so that is what is so important, both removing the stigma around this conversation and around something that is so natural for 50% of our population, as well as making sure that people don't have to worry about what may happen to them in a school setting. Yeah, I should just be able to have the equipment and the products that they need.
Yeah, that's kind of why I wore this shirt today. Born with a uterus, born
into
into
debt.
debt. So we're actually a chapter of period.org, the menstrual movement. And it kind of started a few years ago because we didn't have period products in our school. But what I wanted to do was make sure that all of our students had access. And so starting a club, getting everyone together, and then seeing that state pass law, that was really important and empowering to be like, okay, we have this mission and we should really be striving for community to make sure that nobody is without. And I remember seeing this video that Period had put out of the loopholes, the new cereal, where the cereal had period products stashed inside, because that was the loophole that you could use your benefits and your state benefits, so you could then also get
Wow.
cereal
and period products. And I was like, that would just be a great invention. But like, what else could we do to make sure
They're
we could
accessible.
have
Yeah.
them accessible to menstruators?
Yeah. It's important. I mean, and even just, one step forward, there was something called the pink tax, right? Where
Mhm.
a lot of, at the time, like feminine products and things that are targeted to women specifically were taxed at a
Yeah.
higher rate.
Yeah.
Right. That is unconscionable.
Ridiculous.
It's
Yeah.
completely ridiculous. And that was something that the state repealed. But we're in 2025. And I think that was repealed in like 2019.
Mhm.
Right. It took till 2019
Yeah.
to say that when we market products, that they shouldn't be at a higher price point for women is insane.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so there's still so much work that we have to do to kind of both destigmatize the conversation, but also just to talk about the equity issue, right? The fact that people are directly targeted, right, on things that, need is just completely unacceptable.
So, our experience at Kingston High School is that products can be bulky, potentially toxic, and otherwise inadequate. What gets in the way of consistent access to high quality products?
So last week, we passed a reproductive healthcare package of bills through the Senate. Just last week, we passed my colleague's bill, Senator Natalia Fernandez, her bill to ban carcinogenic chemicals in all period products. The fact that we have to even have a bill on that topic is completely insane, but we do.
Yeah.
And so we've passed it. We need the assembly to pass it again. And so PSA, advocacy to the assembly to make sure that people can hear how important that bill is, and really all the bills in that package, but that one especially can get through would be ideal.
It's wonderful.
And I think from another advocacy perspective, for products that are higher quality and therefore more comfortable and just kind of better lasting for folks, I think advocacy to the school boards directly
100%. Yeah.
is a really good place to start. Right? The bill that we've passed requiring period products in all of our middle schools and high schools is a great first step, but it admittedly doesn't have anything about quality. And so those decisions are made at the school level. And if we can get buy-in from the school board specifically, that's a great place to start. And also electing people, our school boards are elected. And so in those races, I think we should be having those conversations at school board forums and talking about period products and period equity. So that way we're also electing folks to the school board who want to stand up for students. Yeah, who care and who want to stand up for students and make sure that we're not just complying with the law or actually doing it in the best way that we can.
So it sounds like we need to go to the school board meeting with this episode and talk with them about, hey, we need to have better products in our schools.
So, what's ahead for activists in the next 4 years when reproductive justice is gravely threatened?
So we have a lot to do, right? I will say, though, in the state of New York, we've spent since 2019 doing a lot of work to safeguard reproductive rights and access in ways that many other states can and, quite frankly, are following or should be and are following. The Equal Rights Amendment that we just passed, thanks to the voters on the ballot this past November, is amazing. For the first time in our state's constitution, we are enshrining the rights for people regardless of gender, regardless of sexual orientation, regardless of how folks identify, regardless of if someone has had an abortion or not, regardless of reproductive health care. That is now enshrined in our state constitution. So that is a great step forward. We've also done a lot of work as it pertains to protecting medical providers who provide reproductive health care, both to people in New York and those who may be prescribing, over-the-counter medication, prescription medication for folks in other places. And we've really expanded access to period products. And in that conversation, with our bill, we carried two bills. One that provides period products to anyone in the shelter system or who may be unhoused or who are living in temporary housing. That was a really big step forward a couple years ago. And we have another bill that we passed for all period products to be free on SUNY and community campuses to continue work from the 2017 law to make sure that that continues into our higher education. But we have a lot of work to do for additional access, both for period products and for reproductive health care. When you live in more rural communities, we talk about New York as an access state, but in rural areas, we're actually losing healthcare service, right? And it can be hard to find even a primary care doctor, let alone other types of doctors. And so we have a number of bills that really focus on that area to identify healthcare deserts.
Great.
So that way we can see what hospitals and hospital chains are choosing not to provide reproductive care or gender affirming care because of a policy, right? We want to see that so we know where we as a state have to invest in more services so that everybody has access to services, regardless of where you live, regardless of where you come from, your economic status, all of those things. That's our hospital transparency bill. So that was actually part of or not part of this package, will be part of an upcoming package in the Senate this year. But we've got more work to do at the state level to make sure that we are really having equal access for folks to get all of the healthcare and equipment and products that they need.
That's great.
That's like so important as well, because menstrual healthcare and wellness directly relates and is completely associated with reproductive rights. And living in New York, I feel happy that I have the ability to choose, but also that I know if I'm going to go into a healthcare provider, I'm going to get the help that I need, where other menstruators in other states aren't getting that care and that need.
On that point too, we actually have a bill that we're trying to push through this year that would be a tax credit for folks in other states, medical providers who provide reproductive care, families or people who may need reproductive care, or families or individuals who are in the LGBTQ community. It's a tax credit for folks who move and relocate to New York State. And if they're medical providers, to move to New York and practice. We need more healthcare, right? So let's actually incentivize folks to come and practice medicine here in New York, but also help people who may be living in other states where they don't have access to the resources that they need, or may feel uncomfortable or unsafe, and in many places, very fairly so. How do we make it easier for them to come to New York? We want to do a one-time tax credit in the year that they would move here.
I think it's great that you mention how, you're not only protecting the rights of menstruators or people who need reproductive health care, but those who are providing it. It's so important. I mean, the fact that these people are going through years of schooling to do what's right and give people the care that they need is so important. So I think that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, especially, you may live in another state and you practice that care, but now all of a sudden, because of local laws, you're being criminalized just for providing,
doing your job.
for doing your job, and for providing reproductive health care, and for, in many times, trying to save someone's life. Right?
Yeah.
If another state is not going to allow you to practice that, please.
We will.
Come to me. Because we appreciate you. And also for, New York is a state that, I'll say for the foreseeable future, but I hopefully forever, is a state that really welcomes everyone.
We help. Yes, definitely.
And so we want to be a safe place for everyone, again, regardless of background.
100%.
And make it easier for people to come to. I mean, we know too, if you're a family of means, that's not gonna be a question for you, right? You're either gonna be able to get the healthcare that you need, or you're gonna be able to relocate. And it's not gonna, you have to think twice about it. But a lot of people don't have that ability. And so there's only so much that we can do, but a tax credit could make it a little bit easier for family members or for providers who don't have an unlimited amount of money to be able to come somewhere where they can now grow a family and live and feel safe and secure.
Thank you. So kind of on that topic or that idea, what can students do to bring their vision for period justice to fruition? Or what words of advice could you give to young activists?
I think if there are ideas of things that could be better, like providing period products in schools, right? Is there ideas or gaps? Bring them to your elected officials.
Yeah.
Let us know, because some of the best ideas for legislation comes from our community.
That's right. Yeah.
That's I've got ideas. I have my lived experience. We push a lot forward, but I don't know everything, right? And I don't know the experiences that you're having in high school today, or you see from a teacher perspective, right? We want to hear that. And so if there's ways that we can be helpful, definitely advocate with your elected officials.
Yeah.
And I'll say that really does make a difference.
I think in the past you've taken a few Kingston High School students to intern and run some of or help facilitate some of your drives and different things. And they've come back to me to say, hey, this was the experience. And it's just been a great time for them. And they're interested in maybe political science or doing some advocacy work. So it's a great way to get to know, to get to know your local person, but also to if you have an idea, you can bring that to you and maybe even make that come to fruition together.
Thank you for that. I think now is a good moment to transition to Tina's period power story. We all took a 10-session TMI Project true storytelling workshop. We wrote our personal stories about our lives and our periods and performed them in front of a live audience in December 2023. In this one, Tina talks about how she officially became Tina the Tampon Lady.
It all began in a janitor's closet. Well, not exactly. It started with the clothing cabinet at Kingston High School. Well, actually, let me back up a little more. I'm 8 years old, driving with my mom through the center of town in her mint green minivan. She pulls up to the Rite Aid and asks me to run to get a plastic bag from the store. When I return, she lifts herself up out of her seat and asks me to put it under her. Even though she's wearing a pad and probably a tampon, she's worried she might have a bleed through. Ugh, my poor mom. I feel her shame and embarrassment. 3 years later, when I get my period right before the start of 6th grade, I wonder, am I going to survive this? As the only female on an all-boys competitive sports team, I already have to work harder. But now, my period sets me even farther apart from my male teammates and my competitors. I refuse to show defeat. Some days I'm so exhausted when I get home from practice, I crawl right into the laundry basket and cry. Something about the pressure of the basket helps me with the pain, both physically and mentally. When I hit an emotional bottom, I retell myself of the story of Tina, the miracle baby. I was the baby who was delivered from her mother's belly at an emergency C-section. I'm the baby who was immediately separated from her mother, who is struggling to survive, and flown by helicopter to the nearest neonatal intensive care unit. I'm the miracle baby whose father carried her at a done run until he reached the doors of the helicopter pad, where he was forced back by the hospital personnel who brought me aboard. I'm the baby who survived having shit pumped from her lungs, the one who wasn't supposed to live a normal and productive life. I've heard this story throughout my life, told by all of its storytellers, my father, my mother, my aunts, and grandparents. I've replayed this story in my head so many times, and always at the end of each telling comes the famous line, "You're the miracle baby." At some point, I decide that Miracle Baby isn't just a story, it's who I am. It's a gift I get to share with others about overcoming the odds and succeeding anyways. It's a title, a badge of honor, and maybe, just maybe, a state of being. Like, I can't just waste this life. I have to push myself to create as many miracles as possible. Which brings me to present day, living my best activist life in the janitor's closet. I mean my office at Kingston High School, where it all began. I'm hired in 2015 as a cohort social worker, following a group of students from 10th grade to their senior year. As the school is being renovated, we social workers discuss the need for our clothing cabinet to continue. When I transitioned into a new role and a new office in 2018, I asked for more donations and grabbed some garment racks. Someone calls my place a thrift shop. I'm a little insulted at first, but it gets me thinking, what if we had a free store, not just for clothes, but for all the students' needs? I co-lead a free food pantry with the food service department, and that's when the project really takes off. I get all sorts of requests. How about household goods? What about cleaning supplies? And can we get more soap? What about the conditioner and shampoo? One day, the school nurses asked me if I have period products. My intern, Becky, does some research and learns that New York State Public Health Law 267 calls for all elementary and secondary public schools in the state serving students in any grade from grade 6 through grade 12 provide feminine hygiene products in the restrooms of school building and buildings. Such products shall be provided for no charge to students. Why are there no period products in the schools? A group of students come to me and tell me they want to form a period power club. One afternoon, we're all sitting on my office floor, excited to just be putting together these boxes for a period product drive. The principal walks in and asks, "Wow, what's happening here?" I joyfully blurt out, "It's for Period Power Club." He just turns around, puts his hand up in the air, and walks out. I feel small, very unsupported, and so do the students working on this project. I can see it in their eyes. But we use this moment of rejection to light a fire under their feet, and with the free store taking off, we set the boxes up. We advertise the drive and get excited all over again. By the end of the drive, we have received one measly box of period products. The feeling of rejection returns. It feels like no one cares. We're not good enough. Deep-rooted feelings that come from being marginalized. But I am Tina, the miracle baby. Badass woman, tired of being pushed to the side, ready to fight for myself and others. I use my anger and frustration to fuel my fire, and before I know it, I'm ablaze. I'm the pyromaniac of periods! Red embers aglow. I will not stop until change is made. I'm done protecting a system that is broken. We write lots of emails. Becky works on an open mic night event to give space for people to talk about their period experiences. At the end of the day, can we just get some period products in the bathroom? We want to record our open mic night. We reach out to HUDSY and meet Angel and Natasha. Woo! They decide that a documentary about 5 menstruators is just what our community needs. For the first time, we feel seen and valued, like we are enough, and our words have meaning. We are important. What started as a closet full of discarded clothing has turned into a movement. Period power is more than just the stories of these students here tonight. Their stories are fuel to our fire. Eradicate period poverty and end period stigma for everyone. Tina, the miracle baby, all grown up. Tina, the Tampon Lady, won't stop here. Until we have won.
Thank you so much for your story, Tina, and for being our fearless leader. Senator Hinchey, what are your thoughts?
First, I want to say thanks. I think your story is incredibly important. I also think the 10 sessions, and empowering students to share their stories is really beautiful. And so being able, I think, for our students to see someone who's so open and transparent and empowered in their own experience is a really wonderful and inspiring thing. So we need all teachers and educators and adults like you. So thank you for sharing it and for, being part of this really, really important movement. What would you say to encourage other people to kind of follow suit and to be both open about their experiences, but also get more people into the movement? What do you think is needed, and what can we all be doing?
Yeah, I would say that it's really important to know who you are and be really deeply connected to that and kind of embody that in the work that you do. And without fear, right? So it's okay, I'm gonna do this at Kingston High School. I might get in a little bit of trouble. Someone might say something to me and be a little upset that I'm doing this, but I wholeheartedly believe that transparency and doing good for the next generation is important, and it's important work to me, and just really sits with who I am. And so part of also in sharing my story was that I can't expect them to be so open and vulnerable if I'm not able to be open and vulnerable as well. So I would say to other people, be your authentic self and share that with others, because that is what makes other people really feel connected to you, but empowers them to do what they want to do, or to change, or to just advocate for themselves. And so through this journey of my life story, and being in the work of social work and advocating for others, I just was always willing and able to share who I was, and with that healed a lot of trauma, but also just came into accepting me for who I am and my flaws. And I think that's really important and empowering to people who are struggling as well.
Even the fact that we can all sit here in a Period Power Club meeting is really, it's huge steps forward. Right? It was not, when I was in high school, it was not that way, right? It was something that, you'd either never talked about, or people made really crass jokes about, or, which I'm sure probably still happens.
Yes, it does.
But that was the only conversation happening there, right? And it was so belittling for, women and people who menstruate. It was just so belittling for people because
100%
respond.
Yeah.
Right? You can't, it's such the power dynamic becomes totally unequal. And so to be able to create a safe space, and not just a safe space, but an empowering space to lean into who you are and who everyone should be, and be comfortable in being who should be, is a really, to be able to start that in a high school level and kind of get comfortable with who you are was beautiful, and not only serve dividends, for everything that you and all of the members of the club do going forward. I think it's such an awesome thing to have.
And I can say, firsthand, I've been very inspired by Tina here. And not only from the story that you did, but just from your advocacy and your passion for our club. I've known Tina for 4 years now throughout high school, and she's guided me, and it's been wonderful. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
What are so important.
Yes.
Sorry.
It's bringing me to tears because Makayla's going to graduate in June, and I'd say these 4 years of little Makayla joining club and just becoming this young adult, and maybe wanting to do interior design, so setting this all up for her. And
it looks great.
Thank you.
Seeing the young adult who she's becoming, that's what keeps me going every day. And knowing that the work that I do, or the trouble or the hoops that I have to jump through for them,
It's worth it.
It leaves me feeling good, but it gives you your space in the world, and you better come back and visit, man.
I will. Thank you. Thank you for your honesty, Tina. And for our last question, Senator Hinchey, if I wanted to run for office someday, what should I do next?
First, I would say you should totally do it.
Yeah, thank you.
And really, the advice I would give is start doing the work that you're already doing, right? I mean, being involved in an issue that you're passionate about is a great place to start.
Yeah.
I think getting to know the community where you would want to run or the office that you may want to run for or what the issue is that you want to change, right? Running for office, you have to have a kind of a plan. You're not going to solve everything and you don't need to know everything at all. But knowing something that you'd want to make a difference in is an important place. And then recognizing or looking for where you can have the biggest impact in that thing that you're really passionate about. Maybe it's the school board.
Yeah.
Maybe it's county legislature. Maybe it's running for state office, right? There are so many different opportunities. And so identifying where you think you want to have the biggest impact and then the office that can help address that is a great place to start. And, you know, I really think it's important for people, and especially young women or just young people in general, to know that you're never going to know everything, right?
Yeah.
Especially for young women, you're told a lot that, you know, run for a different office or run for something lower. Don't you want more experience? And that just doesn't happen for men who are in office.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking in office before my dad got sick. I was looking at possibly running, and there was someone else who was the exact same age as me who was planning to run for that same office, and they were encouraged to do it, and I was told
You were
"Hey,
not.
you should look at something else. And in all honesty, I actually probably had more experience in that role, right? But it just wasn't in people's consciousness. And so I think it's really important for anyone who's wants to run to know that like your life experience is enough to give you the reason and the weight to run. But anybody watching, if you're thinking about running for office, I think you should do it because not everybody thinks about it. And if you're thinking about it, it means that you care a lot about your community and you want to make a difference.
Right.
And therefore, you know, we need that. We need you and we need your ideas.
Thank you so much for the advice. And that brings us to our time.
Thank you so much for visiting with us, Senator Hinchey, today. And on behalf of Period Power at Kingston High School, we would like to just give you a little gift.
Oh, thank you.
So you can wear Period Power proudly. But we got you a little reusable tote when you go shopping, a shirt, and a pin.
Wonderful. My gosh, that's so nice. Thank you so much.
Of course.
I love it. We'll rep with pride.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. This is great. And thanks for what you're doing. I think it's so wonderful. And it's really
You as well, 100%.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Everyone.
We'd like to end this episode with an exciting update. After joining the Period Power students on this podcast, Senator Michelle Hinchey brought what she learned and who she heard to the New York State Senate floor. In support of Resolution J106, which proclaims May 12th to 18th as Period Poverty Awareness Week in New York State, she uplifted TMI Project and recognized the tireless work of the Period Power Club members at Kingston High School. Her words are a reminder that when we speak up, people in power listen, and when our stories are heard, they can help spark real change. It's proof that we can eradicate period poverty, one story at a time. Here's Senator Michelle Hinchey on May 13th, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to also thank the sponsor of this resolution for bringing it forward and for, with just this sheer effort, helping to destigmatize this conversation. I know for me, growing up in high school, this conversation was an embarrassing conversation to have. It was one that people shied away from actively. And I want to take this moment to actually uplift an organization in my district, the TMI Project, which is actually a group of students in Kingston High School who are actively working not just to destigmatize the conversation around periods in our communities, but to also ensure that people have access to the products that they need. That is the grassroots work that we are all working to support. This chamber has done, as my colleague has said, has done a lot of work in not just repealing things like the pink tax, which was an additional cost on women and people who menstruate, but also making sure that these products are available in our schools, now in our SUNY system, and hopefully soon in all of our public buildings. But yet there are still schools that are not abiding by the 2016 law that we passed in this chamber almost a decade ago. We have to uplift the organizations like the TMI Project that we each have in our district to make sure that our schools are actually providing the products that they need to be providing to everyone who goes into our school system. I thank the sponsor again for bringing forward this resolution, and I thank all of our colleagues in this chamber for supporting the bills that we continue to bring forward to make sure that we can, one, remove the stigma and make sure that no one has to worry about what the day may bring, and that they can live a life with equity and positivity in our communities. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the TMI Project Story Hour presents the Period Power Stories podcast.
If you like what we're doing, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps.
TMI Project is available to offer true storytelling workshops and performances for your school and workplace.
To learn more or to support our work, you can find the details at tmiproject.org.
This episode was produced in partnership with HUDSY and Kingston High School's Period Power Club.
It was written and produced by Hayley Downs, Raine Grayson, and Blake Pfeil. All episodes are shot and edited by HUDSY.
Special thanks to our partners for their generous support of this work: the Hudson Valley Foundation for Youth, the Rowley Foundation Fund for Women and Children, and the Stavros Niarchos Foundation. We couldn't do it without you.